So, The Wire is an HBO police drama that ran from 2002 to 2008. It was 5 seasons in all. The Wire was created primarily by a man named David Simon. And Simon started out his career, I guess, as a journalist for the Baltimore Sun in the 80s and 90s. Um, Eventually, he parted ways with the paper somewhat acrimoniously. He went on to write some nonfiction books and then ultimately some screenplay work. Now, Simon worked with a number of other writers on the show, but one maybe worthy of mention is Ed Burns, who's maybe his principal collaborator, and significant because Burns was a Baltimore police detective and also an educator for some time. So between Simon's work as a journalist and Burns' work as a police officer and also a teacher, they had quite a lot of firsthand experience talking to people and relating to people involved in both law enforcement and law breaking. Um, and so there's a quality of realism to The Wire that is missing from a lot of other television shows, and particularly television shows about crime and law enforcement. The Wire has a kind of authenticity um, that's at once sort of journalistic, but also philosophical. Um, it's very much immersed in the details of the problems of particular people in a particular political and economic climate. Um, but the larger problems it identifies, I think, are some of the essential problems of justice and freedom and governance um, that that we've always struggled with. The way Simon describes it, he suggests that most of television these days is based on a kind of Shakespearean model. So he would say, for example, a show like Breaking Bad, or his example is often The Sopranos, that these are great shows, um, but but really what they are about, or the way they seem to operate, is by examining the psychology of a particular um, great or fascinating individual. And Simon says, well, that's a particular kind of art form. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. But he claims his methods with The Wire are more Greek, particularly Greek tragedy. And the comparison he makes is that the gods and the forces of fate that we're familiar with from Greek tragedy still seem to be operating in the world, the modern world, except that now they take the form of what he refers to as postmodern institutions, right? So our political institutions, our schools, businesses, unions, and this idea of institutions really gives shape to The Wire. So The Wire is very clearly divided into 5 parts. Each of its 5 seasons has a different focus. Drug trade, unions, government and bureaucracy, education system, and the press. We get these 5 pictures of 5 different institutions, all of which are interconnected. The show argues, and in doing that, Simon and his colleagues really try to give us a picture of what makes the modern city work, or what makes the modern city fail to work. One of the metaphors that Simon often employs when he's talking about The Wire is he talks about a shadow America. So his suggestion is there's 2 Americas. Simon was really on the problems of economic inequality before they became kind of a daily newspaper headline, and it's one of the things that The Wire really meditates upon. This problem of particularly of the have-nots, of people who are disenfranchised by the system, who have been let down by the system, and for whom there's no obvious path from poverty or from jail or from a life of crime to a life of comfort and security and prosperity. Um, so this notion for Simon that there's an American dream and then there's a shadow America is a really sort of important concept to hold on to as we approach the show.